The period spanning the Civil War to the onset of World War I was one of the most transformative eras of American history, marked by the significant social, economic, and political changes. This period saw the country deal with issues such as slavery, racism, industrialization, and imperialism, which would shape the nation's future for years to come. The U.S. Civil War, which lasted from 1861 to 1865, was a defining moment in American history. The conflict was fought between the northern states who were against slavery and the southern states who favored it. The war was a result of growing tensions between the two sides over the government's attempts to limit the spread of slavery. The Confederacy, comprising 11 southern states, formed in response to the government's efforts, and the newly elected President Abraham Lincoln was committed to preserving the Union by force, if necessary. The war claimed the lives of 600,000 people and left the country deeply divided. The aftermath of the Civil War, known as the Reconstitution period, was a challenging time for America. Slavery was abolished, but it nearly left 3 million newly freed slaves struggling to make a living. The Reconstruction period also saw the rise of racist groups like the Ku Klux Klan and the implementation of Jim Crow laws that marginalized African Americans. Despite these challenges, the period also saw progress in civil rights, including the passage of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments to the U.S. Constitution, which abolished slavery, granted citizenship to former slaves, and gave them the right to vote. However, these victories were short-lived as southern states used intimidation tactics to suppress black voting rights through poll taxes, literacy tests, and violent acts. The post-Civil War era also saw the emergence of the Industrial Revolution in the United States, which lasted from 1875 until the end of World War II. This period laid the foundation for America's modern capitalist economy, making new technology more accessible to the average person while creating large corporations. The United States became a hub for creativity and innovation, with thousands of inventions patented each year. This industrial boom led to the rise of the new class of wealthy business tycoons, including John D. Rockefeller, John Jacob Astor, J.P. Morgan, and Andrew Carnegie. Despite the prosperity brought by the Industrial Revolution, many Americans were critical of the government's lack of regulation over big businesses. Journalists dubbed these wealthy tycoons robber barons who profited from bribery, tax evasion, law dodging, and the exploitation of workers. This led to the emergence of progressive movements and calls for the purification of American politics, leading to the progressive era of the 1890s. In 1898, the Spanish-American War broke out, fueled by Americans' desire to remove Spanish influence from the American hemisphere. Spain controlled several territories, including Cuba, Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines. The USS Maine, an American naval vessel, exploded in mysterious circumstances while harbored in Spanish-controlled Cuba, leading to a 4-month war. The United States emerged victorious, and Spain was forced to cede control of its colonial possessions. Finally, World War I began in 1914, marking the end of this period in American history. The war led to significant changes in American society, including an increase in women's participation in the workforce and the growth of the military-industrial complex. The war also saw the first significant use of tanks, airplanes, and chemical weapons, leading to increased technological advancements in warfare. In conclusion, the period spanning the U.S. Civil War to the onset of World War I was a transformative era in American history, Marked by social, economic, and political changes, it was a period of both progress and setbacks, with victories for civil rights, the emergence of a capitalist economy, and the growth of the military-industrial complex, as well as the implementation of racist laws and the exploitation of workers. These changes would shape the nation's future for years to come. One of the most significant social changes during this period was the abolition of slavery and the granting of citizenship and voting rights to former slaves. However, the implementation of Jim Crow laws and the use of violence and intimidation tactics by Southern states meant that these victories were short-lived. It was not until the civil rights movement of the 1950s and the 1960s that significant progress was made towards equality. The emergence of the Industrial Revolution also had a significant impact on American society. It created new job opportunities, increased access to technology and transportation, and made goods more affordable for the average person. However, it also led to the exploitation of workers, the concentration of wealth in the hands of a few, and the lack of government regulation over big businesses. The progressive movements of the late 19th and the early 20th centuries aimed to address these issues by calling the greater government regulation, worker protection, and antitrust laws. The Spanish-American War and the World War I were significant events in American history, marking the country's emergence as a world power. The Spanish-American War demonstrated the country's willingness to use military force to remove foreign influence from the American hemisphere, while World War I led to the growth of the military-industrial complex and increased technological advancements in warfare. Overall, the period spanning the Civil War to the onset of World War I was a transformative era in American history. It saw significant social, economic, and political changes, some of which were positive, while others were setbacks. These changes would shape the nation's future for years to come, setting the stage for the civil rights movement, the growth of a capitalist economy, and the emergence of the United States as a world power.